The moment Ms. Debbie walked into that date, you could almost hear the collective gasp from the entire 90-day fandom, because this was not the same woman we thought we knew. If you've been following 90 Day, the single life closely, you already know Debbie doesn't do anything halfway. But what unfolded during her single life era? It wasn't just messy, it was quietly emotional in a way TLC barely touched. And honestly, I know what you're thinking, Debbie's just having fun, right? A little flirting, a little southern charm, maybe a dramatic hat moment or two.
Yeah, that's what it looked like on the surface. But here's the part TLC cameras didn't show. This wasn't just Debbie mingling. This was a woman in her 70s trying to rebuild her identity after one of the most public romantic humiliations in franchise history. And when she stepped back into the dating pool, the stakes were way higher than anyone expected. Because remember, Debbie didn't enter the single life as some carefree retiree. She entered as someone still carrying the emotional bruises from her failed relationship with Oussama. Fans saw the poetry, the Morocco trip, the fairy tale delusion, and then the brutal crash back to reality. That kind of heartbreak doesn't just disappear because production hands you a new wardrobe and a confessional chair. And this is exactly where things start getting interesting. When Debbie announced she was ready to date again, the internet split immediately. Over on the 90 Day Fiancé subreddit, some fans were cheering her on, calling her the queen of reinvention. But others, they were already side-eyeing the situation, warning that Debbie might be rushing back into romance before fully processing what happened in Morocco. But wait, because the real twist didn't hit until Ruben entered the picture. Now on paper, Ruben looked like exactly what Debbie needed. Age-appropriate, charismatic, confident without being overbearing, the kind of guy who could match her theatrical energy without looking overwhelmed on camera. And when they first met, the chemistry actually surprised people. Even longtime Debbie skeptics had to admit, something felt different this time. But listen to this. Behind the scenes, fans on Instagram started noticing tiny details that didn't quite line up with TLC's fairy tale edit. Small things. The pacing of the relationship. The way Debbie's tone shifted in certain confessionals. The slightly too perfect first impressions. And if you've watched this franchise long enough, you already know, when things look too smooth early on, that's usually when the real drama is loading in the background. Quick side note, if you're the type who catches these little reality TV clues before everyone else, go ahead and hit subscribe. This channel is basically where the 90-day truth seekers hang out, and trust me, the deeper layers of Debbie's story only get wilder from here. Because while TLC was busy giving us the "Debbie is back and thriving" storyline, there were emotional cracks forming that most casual viewers completely missed. One moment that really stood out: Debbie's body language during some of her early dates with Ruben. She was smiling. Yes. Flirting. Absolutely. But there were flashes of hesitation that longtime fans picked up on immediately. The kind of micro-expressions that say, "I want this to work, but I've been burned before." And honestly, that makes sense. This is where the 90-day dream quietly fell apart for Debbie the first time. Trusting too fast, believing too deeply, and investing emotionally before the foundation was solid. So when she started opening up to Ruben, the big question wasn't whether she liked him. It was whether she was ready to risk getting hurt again on national television. Meanwhile, over on Twitter, X, the fan base was getting louder. Some viewers were fully rooting for the romance, calling Ruben Debbie's redemption arc. Others weren't buying it at all. One viral post literally said, "Debbie is repeating the same emotional pattern, just with a different accent." And that comment, it sparked a whole debate thread that TLC definitely didn't highlight. Because here's what makes Debbie's single life journey so fascinating: it's not just about dating. It's about whether someone who fell hard in her 70s can actually recalibrate her instincts. That's rare to watch play out in real time. Most reality stars in this franchise are in their 20s or 30s, still figuring life out. Debbie is doing it with decades of emotional history behind her. And then came the moment that really made viewers lean forward. When Debbie started talking about what she wanted long-term, her tone shifted. The playful energy dipped just slightly. The conversation got real. Suddenly this wasn't just about cute dates and flirty banter. This was about companionship, aging, and the very human fear of ending up alone. I know what you're thinking. That got deep fast. Exactly. Because underneath the colorful outfits and poetic one-liners, Debbie's single life storyline is quietly one of the most emotionally vulnerable arcs the franchise has produced in years. And the more time she spent with Ruben, the more fans started asking the uncomfortable question. Was this truly a fresh start? Or was Debbie trying to rewrite a fairy tale that reality TV had already shattered once? Now here's where Reddit detectives really went into overdrive. Some viewers noticed that Ruben's confidence, while charming, occasionally bordered on performative. Not in a malicious way, but enough to make longtime franchise watchers raise an eyebrow. Because if there's one thing this fandom has learned after dozens of seasons, it's that early charm can sometimes mask long-term incompatibility. And TLC, they kept the edit mostly warm and hopeful. But real fans know better than to trust the first half of the story. As Debbie continued navigating the dating scene, the emotional tension wasn't coming from explosive fights or dramatic walk-offs. It was quieter than that. More subtle. The kind of tension that builds when someone desperately wants a love story to work, but deep down isn't fully sure it will. And honestly, that's what made her journey so watchable. Because whether you love Debbie or side-eye her romantic decisions, you can't deny one thing. She's putting her heart on the line in a way most reality stars wouldn't dare to at her age. Still, the biggest question hasn't been answered yet. Is Ruben truly the stable, grounded partner Debbie has been searching for since her Morocco heartbreak? Or is the franchise quietly setting us up for another emotional curveball that fans won't see coming until it's too late? Because if 90 Day history has taught us anything, it's that the calmest storylines sometimes explode the loudest. And right now, the fandom is still divided. Half the viewers believe Debbie finally found someone who matches her energy without the red flags that doomed her last relationship. The other half, they're watching closely, waiting for the moment when the cracks, if they exist, finally start to show. So here's the real question I want you to sit with. Is Ms. Debbie truly stepping into her long overdue happy ending with Ruben? Or are we watching the early chapters of another 90-day love story that feels magical, right before it falls apart? Drop your take in the comments, because this one is far from settled.